Some stories don't end. They loop. They spiral. They pull you in, like the tide pulling something helpless out into the open sea, never letting go. I learned that too late, because once I stepped onto that railway platform, there was no way out. I was 12 when I first found it, a battered old book bound in faded red leather, wedged between forgotten volumes in my father's library. I don't know why I took it, but something about it called to me. That night, long after my parents had gone to bed, I lit a candle, curled up beneath my blankets, and opened it. Its title was embossed in peeling gold letters, Midnight Express. I remember the stillness of the house. The only sounds were the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall below and the distant rhythm of the ocean on the cliffs outside. I turned the pages, my fingers grazing the yellowed paper, feeling something old pressed between the lines. And then I found it. Page 50. I don't know why it scared me. It was just a drawing, a railway platform at night, empty except for a single figure standing beneath a lamplight. A man. His back was turned, his face hidden, staring into the black mouth of a tunnel that swallowed the tracks. The darkness beyond that tunnel seemed wrong, too deep, like it could pull you in. Something about that image unsettled me to my core. I felt like I had seen it before, like I had been there before. The feeling was so strong, so overwhelming, that I did something strange. I grabbed 2 long pins and pinned the page shut so I would never see it again. I kept reading. I wanted to know why the image had been drawn. I wanted to know what it meant. But every night before I could reach page 50, I would fall asleep, again and again, until the story became nothing more than a blur of half-remembered words, until I forgot it completely. Or at least, I thought I had. Because years later, I found myself standing on a railway platform at night, and I realized I had seen it before. I don't know why I was there. The memory of how I arrived felt like a half-forgotten dream, but I was awake now, standing on a deserted railway platform under the dim glow of a single flickering lamp. The air was cold, thick with the metallic scent of rain on rusted tracks. The station was silent. No footsteps, no voices, just the distant wind whistling through the tunnel ahead. The moment I saw it, I remembered. It was the drawing. Page 50. I wasn't looking at a picture anymore. I was inside it. And then I saw him. The figure standing beneath the lamplight. Still. Motionless. Just like in the book. His back was turned, his face hidden, his body rigid with expectation. He was staring into the tunnel, waiting, listening. For what? I didn't know. But something inside me whispered, "You know how this ends." I should have left. I should have turned away, stepped back, run. But I didn't. I couldn't. The figure under the lamp held me frozen, as if the moment had already happened before, like I was simply reliving a memory I'd tried to forget, a memory I had read before. My heart pounded, my throat went dry, and then I made a decision. I would go to him. I would walk up to the waiting figure, see his face, and finally break the cycle. 1 step, 2, 3. I was right behind him now, close enough to hear him breathing, close enough to see the tremble in his hands. I took a breath, forced my voice steady. "Excuse me," I said. "Do you know if the train is going to be late?" The figure stiffened. A slow, sickening dread curled in my stomach. Then, in a single movement, he turned to face me, and I saw myself. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I could only stare, because the face looking back at me was my own. pale, expressionless, eyes wide, lips slightly parted, like I had been waiting for this moment all along. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body wouldn't listen, because my reflection, the other me, wasn't running. He just stood there, staring, watching me with my own eyes, and then, as if mocking me, he smiled. That smile, my smile, it sent a sickening jolt through my body. I stumbled back, heart hammering, my breath coming in sharp gasps. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I turned, ran, out of the station, through the empty ticket office, onto the long moonlit road beyond. But the moment my feet hit the pavement, I heard it. Footsteps, following me, not running, just walking, steady, unhurried, as if it knew there was no escape. I ran, faster than I ever had in my life. The cold air burned my lungs, my footsteps pounding against the empty road, but the other footsteps, they never changed. Slow, deliberate, never rushing, never falling behind, like it knew I was only running in circles, like it knew I was already caught. Ahead of me, a small white cottage loomed on the side of the road. A single thought flashed through my mind. If I can just get inside. I lurched toward the door, slamming against it, pounding with both fists. The footsteps behind me never stopped. I beat against the wood until my knuckles bled. Then I heard something. Slow, heavy footsteps inside the house, descending the stairs, moving toward the door. And then, finally, the lock clicked open, and he was there, a tall, shadowy figure, standing in the dim candlelight, his face wrapped in cloth, as if it had been hidden away for too long. He didn't speak, he only beckoned, and somehow I stepped inside. The door locked behind me. I was trapped now, led up the crooked stairs into a small firelit room. 2 chairs, a table, and on the table, a battered old book bound in red leather. I knew it before I even touched it. Midnight Express. The man pointed to the chair. I sat. The candle flickered beside me, and I turned the first page. My hands trembled as I turned the pages. The words swam before my eyes, but I knew them already. I had read them before. It was a story about a man who, as a child, had found a book with a picture that terrified him. A man who had forgotten until one night on a lonely railway platform, he saw the same scene come to life. A man who had fled in terror, seeking shelter in a wayside cottage, only to be led upstairs to a room with a burning fire, a battered red book on the table, and the realization that he was reading his own fate. The pages turned faster now. I was desperate to reach the end, to break the cycle. But then, for the third time, the book described the cottage, the fire, the man in the cerecloth mask, and a sickening thought slithered into my mind. What if the man in the doorway was just another version of me? At that moment, I heard the key turn in the lock. The figure stepped forward. I knew what was coming. He would sit in the chair across from me. He would unwind the cloth from his face, and I would see myself. But would I be alive, or would I be something else? I would never know. Because as the figure reached for his mask, I lunged forward, my hands wrapped around his throat. His hands wrapped around mine. We strangled each other in the flickering firelight, our cries indistinguishable. And when the last sounds died away, the room was silent again. So silent that, if you listened closely, you could hear the ticking of a grandfather clock and the long, slow sigh of the sea, a sound from a distant coast. 38 years ago,